Hello, Reddit. I'm reaching out for some advice on a complicated situation I find myself in, so I'm using a throwaway account. I appreciate your understanding as I share my story. My name is Alex, and I'm a 42-year-old man who has spent the last few years navigating the tumultuous waters of family betrayal, personal loss, and the long road to recovery. Growing up, I was always in the shadow of my older brother, Ethan. He was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I often felt invisible, overshadowed by his accomplishments and the attention he received. This dynamic shaped my childhood and, ultimately, my adult life in ways I never anticipated. 2. Childhood and family dynamics. From a young age, it was clear that Ethan was the favorite. He excelled in sports, had a natural charm that drew people to him, and was the star of every family gathering. My parents would beam with pride as they recounted his achievements, while I sat quietly, feeling like an afterthought. When I struggled in school, my parents' response was disappointment. They didn't understand that I was trying my best, they only saw my grades as a reflection of my worth. In contrast, when Ethan received poor marks, they rallied around him, offering support and encouragement. I learned early on that my accomplishments would never be enough to earn their praise. As I grew older, I yearned for independence. I wanted to carve my own path, but I often felt trapped in the expectations set by my family. I pursued my education diligently, eventually earning an MBA, but the sense of inadequacy lingered. I graduated and returned to our hometown, hoping to find my place in the world. 3. Education and career. After completing my MBA, I landed a job in a local firm. I was excited to start my career, but the shadow of my brother loomed large. Ethan, having barely graduated high school, had opened a small landscaping business with our parents' help. While I was proud of him, I cowed and shook the feeling that I was still competing for my parents' approval. During this time, I met Sarah, a bright and ambitious woman who shared my passion for life. We connected instantly, bonding over our dreams and aspirations. Sarah was everything I admired: intelligent, kind, and fiercely independent. We began dating, and I felt a sense of hope for the future. As our relationship blossomed, I introduced Sarah to my family during the 2010 holidays. I was nervous, but I hoped they would see how special she was. To my surprise, they welcomed her with open arms. For the first time in years, I felt their warmth and acceptance. However, I cowed and shook the feeling that Ethan's gaze lingered a little too long on Sarah during our family gatherings. 4. The turning point. Ethan began visiting our apartment more frequently, initially every few months, but soon it became a weekly occurrence. His constant presence started to wear on me, and I began to feel uncomfortable. Sarah and I would be winding down after a long day, only to have Ethan show up unannounced, eager to hang out. At first, I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just brotherly love. But as the visits became more frequent, I started to feel suffocated. I had to establish boundaries, which led to a heated discussion with my parents. They didn't understand why I was upset. After all, Ethan was just trying to be close to family. "Alex, you're overreacting," my mother said, her voice tinged with frustration. "Ethan loves you and wants to be part of your life." "Yeah, but it's too much." "I need space," I replied, my voice rising. Ethan, sensing the tension, promised to limit his visits, but the strain on our relationship was palpable. I felt like I was losing control of my own life. In 2012, I proposed to Sarah, and while my parents celebrated, Ethan seemed distant. He shook my hand and left the small gathering I had planned, his expression unreadable. I brushed it off, thinking he was just having a bad day. But deep down, I sensed something was off. 5. The fallout. The wedding took place in 2013, and it was a beautiful day filled with love and laughter. Sarah looked stunning in her white dress, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. However, Ethan's behavior was unsettling. He brought a date, a woman named Lisa, who seemed overly interested in Sarah. I noticed the way Ethan would lean in closer to her during conversations, his laughter a little too loud, his gaze lingering a little too long. It made me uncomfortable, but I brushed it off as jealousy. After all, he was my brother, and I wanted to believe he had good intentions. As the months passed, the tension between Ethan and me grew. He would often drop by unannounced, and I could sense a shift in his demeanor. It was as if he was trying to insert himself into my life in ways that felt invasive. Sarah began to notice it too, and we had several discussions about how to handle the situation. "Alex, I don't want to create a rift between you and your brother, but this is getting out of hand," she said one evening as we sat on the couch, the glow of the television casting shadows around us. "I feel like I'm being pulled into something I don't want to be a part of." "I know, and am sorry. I'll talk to him," I promised, but deep down I was unsure how to approach the subject without causing more friction. The breaking point came when our daughter, Mia, was born in 2014. The joy of becoming a father was overshadowed by Ethan's increasing obsession with Sarah. He would visit more frequently, often bringing gifts for Mia, but I could see the way he looked at Sarah. It made my skin crawl. One evening, after a particularly tense visit, I confronted Ethan. "You need to back off, Ethan. This isn't okay," I said, my voice steady but filled with anger. "What are you talking about?" he replied, feigning innocence. "I'm just being a good uncle." "Good uncles don't act the way you do." "You're crossing a line," I shot back, my heart racing. Ethan's expression darkened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something dangerous in his eyes. "You're just jealous because I'm better at everything," he spat, his voice low and menacing. I was taken aback by his words. "This isn't about competition. It's about family. You need to respect my boundaries." But Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he stormed out, leaving me shaken and filled with dread. I confided in Sarah, who was equally disturbed by the encounter. 6. Isolation and despair. As the months went by, the situation escalated. Ethan's visits became more erratic, and I began to feel isolated. My parents, oblivious to the tension, continued to praise Ethan, and I felt like I was losing my mind. The stress took a toll on my marriage, and Sarah and I found ourselves arguing more frequently. Then, in 2015, we welcomed our second daughter, Zoe. The joy of her birth was overshadowed by the growing rift in our family. Ethan's behavior became more erratic, and I started to receive strange messages from him, often late at night. "Why don't you let me take care of Sarah and the girls?" one message read. "You're too busy with work to appreciate them." I was horrified. I showed the messages to Sarah, and we both agreed that we needed to cut ties with Ethan. But when I confronted my parents about his behavior, they dismissed my concerns. "Ethan loves you and your family. You're just being paranoid," my mother said, her voice filled with disbelief. Feeling disowned and unsupported, I spiraled into a deep depression. I lost my job due to my inability to focus, and my friendships dwindled as I withdrew from social interactions. I felt like I was drowning, and the weight of my family's expectations crushed me. 7. Rebuilding life. In 2016, after months of despair, I made the difficult decision to move to a new city with Sarah and the girls. It was a fresh start, a chance to escape the toxic environment that had consumed my life. I found a new job with a supportive boss named Mark, who encouraged me to pursue my passions. Therapy became a lifeline for me. I learned to confront my feelings of inadequacy and began to rebuild my self-esteem. I also took up physical fitness, finding solace in running and weightlifting. It was a slow process, but I started to feel like myself again. During this time, I met Lily at a local community event. She was vibrant and full of life, and we quickly became friends. Our connection deepened, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I hadn't with anyone else. She encouraged me to pursue my dreams and reminded me that I was worthy of love and happiness. 8. The truth revealed. In 2018, I received a call from Jessica, a mutual friend from our hometown. She had heard about my struggles and wanted to share something important. "Alex, I need to tell you about Ethan," she said, her voice trembling. "He's been manipulating everyone, including your parents. He's not the person you think he is." Jessica revealed that Ethan had been spreading lies about me, painting me as the villain in our family drama. He had convinced our parents that I was the one who had pushed him away and that I was unfit to be a husband and father. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been battling an enemy I didn't even know existed. Fueled by anger and a desire for justice, I confronted Ethan. I gathered evidence of his manipulations, including messages and testimonies from friends who had witnessed his behavior. When I confronted him, he laughed it off, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "You think you can take me down? You're nothing without Mom and Dad's support," he sneered. But I was determined. I reached out to a lawyer and began the process of filing a lawsuit against Ethan for defamation and emotional distress. It was a daunting task, but I had the support of Lily, who stood by me every step of the way. 9. Legal battle. The legal proceedings were grueling. I had to relive the pain of my past, recounting the emotional turmoil Ethan had caused. Each court date felt like a battle, and the emotional toll was immense. But I was not alone. Lily, along with a few close friends, rallied around me, providing the support I desperately needed. As the case progressed, I found strength in my newfound community. I began to share my story publicly, hoping to raise awareness about the impact of familial manipulation and emotional abuse. The response was overwhelming, and I realized I wasn't alone in my struggles. Finally, the day of the court ruling arrived. My heart raced as I sat in the courtroom, surrounded by friends and supporters. The judge delivered the verdict, ruling in my favor. Ethan was ordered to pay damages for the emotional distress he had caused. It was a bittersweet victory, but it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. 10. Reconciliation and moving forward. After the ruling, I decided to reach out to my parents. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt it was necessary for my healing. We met at a local cafe, and I laid everything on the table. I shared my experiences, my feelings of isolation, and the truth about Ethan's manipulations. To my surprise, my parents listened. They were shocked and saddened by the revelations, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of understanding in their eyes. "We had no idea, Alex. We're so sorry for not believing you," my mother said, tears streaming down her face. The journey of forgiveness was long, but it was a necessary step toward healing. I began to rebuild my relationship with my parents, and while it would take time, I felt hopeful for the future. With the legal battle behind me, I decided to channel my experiences into something positive. I started a small business focused on helping others navigate family dynamics and emotional health. It was a way to give back and support those who had faced similar struggles. 11. Conclusion. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the road to healing was not linear. There were ups and downs, moments of despair, and moments of triumph. I had learned the importance of resilience, the power of community, and the necessity of standing up for myself. As I looked toward the future, I felt a renewed sense of hope. I was no longer defined by my past or overshadowed by my brother. I was Alex, a husband, a father, and a man who had fought for his happiness. With Sarah and our daughters by my side, and with Lilith's unwavering support, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. The shadow of the golden sun no longer loomed over me. Instead, I had stepped into the light, ready to forge my own path and create a life filled with love, joy, and authenticity.